I don't know why we're not showing up. Hang on.
We're here. We're here. We're having difficulties, Captain.
I found
in a
it.
nebula. I'm
There
trapped
we
in a
go.
nebula.
You're trapped in the nebula. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21st century, very obviously. This is the Star Trek Discovery Pod, a sometimes funny, apparently sometimes stuck in a nebula podcast covering all things new and classic Trek. I'm your chamomile tea, no sugar please, drinking captain, Myrriah Gossett. With me on the view screen, we have...
I'm Clyde Haynes. Myrriah, I think it's time that you start calling me number one.
Number one, Clyde Haynes.
Hello. And I'm you're not a nebula, Paul Satachet.
Paul, our science officer, Paul.
That was it. Not a nebula.
Not a nebula, Paul. Yes, tonight we are reviewing and discussing the third episode of this final season of Star Trek Picard, entitled 17 Seconds, directed by Jonathan Frakes, written by Jane Maggs and Cindy Appel. But just a few reminders first. Paul, what do you have to tell the audience here?
Well, I'm assigned to remind our listeners to subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. All links at StarTrekPod.co. And if you're loving all this content and you'd like to support us, please consider joining our Patreon for just $2 per episode at patreon.com/StarTrekPod.
Do it. Clyde, how can people engage with us in the chat tonight if they're watching us live?
Well, if you're watching us live and you want to participate, you want to let us know what your comment is, what your thoughts are, you've got questions, you want to correct us, then it's very, very simple. You just type capital P, capital O, capital D, capital pod in the chat, and we'll take a look. Now, when that time comes, you want to let us know what your overall thoughts about the show is, you know what it was or what it will be when it comes, you just type capital H, capital F, capital HF in the chat, and we will take a look at your thoughts.
Indeed. Tonight, before we jump into Picard, I did want to talk about our namesake show has announced that the 5th season of Star Trek Discovery will be the last season of Star Trek Discovery. And I am really sad. So I just wanted to, pour one out for Disco, get y'all's thoughts. How are you feeling? Thoughts, feelings, reflections. We'll talk about it more as the 5th season approaches, which apparently we're not getting till 2024, which also makes me sad that we're going to go a full year without any Disco in our lives. But yeah, I'm really sad, guys.
And that sucks. That sucks.
Yeah.
Disco is still my favorite franchise. I know we got a lot of people who are jumping on that Strange New World because, Handsome Mount is just so handsome. And I like it. I really do. I like Strange New Worlds quite a bit, but Disco's special. And I feel like it started all of this. I'm not ready for it to go. 5 seems too soon. Like I was really hoping for 8.
I need 6 seasons in a movie, some Community vibes here.
I mean, I wonder though, like when you have a talent like Sonia Martin Green, is it hard to keep her on a show like that?
I mean, potentially, but the other thing is like it's a pretty seasonal show. I feel like it's not like she couldn't go. She did like a bunch of movies in the last couple of years too, There's those opportunities out there. Anthony Rapp did, a whole Broadway production. So it's like, there's room. But yeah, I'm sad. I would love if we got a movie. I'm glad that they potentially get to, seemingly it's on their own terms of where this is ending for them, or they're going to get to write the ending they want for these characters, which I always appreciate more than like finding out halfway through a season that they're not going to renew it for the next year. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I wonder how long any of the new Trek can last. I think once upon a time,
what shows really get those runs anymore?
Yeah, like 5 seems like a lot to me. For what you call it, for a streaming show.
I mean, how many seasons did Game of Thrones get?
8.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, 8. But Breaking Bad, I feel like
4, right? Breaking Bad 4, 5.
think there's 5 for Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
Man, I don't know.
Right,
But
like-
then you got shows like what Grey's Anatomy that's still going.
Yeah, but that's a serialized network television show. You know what I mean? They're using those same sets over and over and over again. That's like a different beast, I think.
Would you take a serialized Trek show if it meant that you could have it for 20 seasons, a la or more, a la? I mean, that's what I need. I need a Doctor Who Trek.
I just don't think, but even like, isn't all new Doctor Who even now only like 10 episodes a season?
Something like that.
I think it's all really.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
it's the new reality. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like I'm like, to be honest, like I'm surprised like we have all the content that we do as far as Star Trek. Like, you know,
Mhm.
it's crazy to me. Like as a Star Trek fan, like I thought like, you know, the UPN was going to be the high point of it, right? Where you had I think there was one overlap where it was like Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, all 3 shows. That
Mhm.
was, but each of those shows were like 22 episodes plus, right? So, but like everyone's so nowadays.
You know,
Well, I think it's also, I mean, on the business side has changed a lot because
Right.
of streamers and because of the way
Mhm.
pay happens and
Mhm.
all of that stuff. So I think it's, you know, to your point, Paul, it's like, it's incredible that we've gotten 5 seasons of any show really, but it is sad that it's like, you know, I'm sure every writer in Los Angeles would love if every show got a 22 episode order, but right now I think that's only Abbott Elementary,
Oh, I don't.
well,
I,
okay, so I was gonna say one,
which I love.
I gotta be honest. So I got 2 quick comments. One, if it went on for 8 or 9 seasons, I think there's a real question. Podcast aside, I think there's a real question whether or not I as a viewer would hang in there, because I know people love the Flash. Flash is up to 8 seasons, but I talk to people all the time who are like, "Yeah, I fell off after 4, or I fell off after
6.
5." See,
Uh,
and so I think there's just an attention span thing where it's hard to keep up. But what happens is, you know, here we are, and you're going, okay, the 5th season is going to be the last. I think we saw this with the other pod I was on, This Is Us, is all of a sudden everybody comes back because now I gotta, you know, one, I gotta catch up, and I want to be there for the final season. You almost get an influx. It's almost like a premiere all over again. And as you guys talk about that, I just want to say, JC, you've mentioned the AT word in the chat. Please don't do that again.
Hey,
Please don't do that again.
Ash Tyler's coming back for the 741 show.
No,
so-
no,
with
no.
Oscar-winning Michelle Yeoh.
Yes, Michelle. Yes, Ash Tyler. No, just saying.
Well, yes, we will talk more.
Wait. Who's Ash Tyler?
No
I see you approach Ash Tyler like I do that one Indiana Jones thing that happened. Seemingly. But yes, we will continue to reflect on this last chapter of Discovery as we get closer, and you know, we'll see what it will look like. But I do think with Picard coming to a close this season, Discovery getting one more, this now only currently leaves us with one live action Trek show on air right now. Correct? Right? I'm not wrong. That means we have Prodigy, Lower Decks, and Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
Although the animation stuff's been killing it, but I will be ready for an announcement of what our 7 of 9 Rafi and Wharf spinoff show is, or, you know, Paramount Plus, CBS streaming, whatever y'all will be called when you merge with Showtime. That's happening soon. Just give Paul and I a call. We are ready to, I think this whole room is ready to write the Klingon Game of Thrones show for you. Right. We shall have that pilot ready for you by next week.
I'm literally working on a Peanut Hamper spinoff.
Oh, I have a Peanut Hamper theory by the end of this show. Later. We'll get to my Peanut Hamper theory later.
You know, we first started this pod way back when, Discovery season 1. Mm-hmm. There was an ongoing gag where we would wait every episode for 2 things. One, Grant to confuse Vulcan with Romulan or Klingon or mess that up somehow. Happened every episode. And the other thing was a random tie-in to the series Lost every episode. Now it feels like the running gag is, at what point can we surprise Clyde with a random peanut hamper comment to just throw him off from the rest of the episode?
You're welcome. It's coming later. Be prepared.
Man.
But I do think it might be time for us to jump in and talk about this episode of Picard. Let's get ready for some whiskey and some de-aging technology here. Get ready for that filter on your next TikTok. And it is time for some Hot Freaks! Hot Freaks! This is a freaky episode. I'm just going to jump in and be like, I thought this was a really great episode. I love Jonathan Frakes directed episodes. I can feel the familiarity with the subject matter. I love the way the action sequences were put together. I also have some hot takes about Picard that I'll pepper in throughout this and the character, not just the show. But yeah, I loved all of the Raffaella and Wharf scenes together. I'm so excited that that is happening and is finally getting Rafi out of just talking to a green screen. I enjoyed the really tense Picard Crusher, seemingly the first of many big conversations for them to have. But I will say my only nit to pick is I am getting I'm ready for us to move forward a little bit quicker because I feel like, again, we are in real time by the end of this episode. And we just are like incrementally moving the chess pieces. So that is my hot freak. What about Clyde? Paul, thoughts?
Paul, you want to go first?
Sure. Anyone ever been to Vegas and gone to a buffet and you just basically get all the things you want and then you go like, I don't know if that was good. Individually, they're the things you wanted, but then all of a sudden you put it all together and you're like, maybe I didn't put together all that well or whatever. So So
I think you're buffeting wrong, Paul. I think you're doing the buffet wrong.
So individually, I liked all the pieces. I just didn't feel like it worked well for me. Where I'm going, it felt scattered to me. It started off with the that weird de-aging in the beginning, which works if you're watching it on a laptop. But I was watching it last night, on big screen. I go oh, are they Romulans?
It was, it's anyway, I was like, we'll talk about it in a minute, but I'll let you continue your hot break.
and so I wanted to see all those bits. I wanted to see the Picard, the Picard Crusher moment. I wanted to see Seven in action. I wanted to see Ralphie and Wharf together. And the reveal of the Changeling, so cool. All that stuff, was great. But all together, I was just going I don't know where I am. I'm kind of floating in jello a little bit. And the thing that I had a hard time with is watching two old men argue about how to captain the ship. and then all of a sudden, it all just, they're both wrong kind of thing. And I'm going oh no. I've had, I play board games. And so I used to have this board game group that had these 70-year-olds, and eventually it'd fall to a yelling match because they're both yelling at each other because of rules or something like that. And I just felt like this is what's happening. But I just imagine myself on the bridge and this is happening, and they go Will, you're too scared of losing stuff, and the best part was just cutting to everyone's reaction,
it's when you're this is when we need Seven on the bridge.
Exactly. Yeah. You're this is awkward. It's literally the Star Trek version of that meme, right? Where you're
Clyde, what did you think?
I'm gonna take a different stance. I loved it. But I also know, much like you, Myrriah, I can almost recognize a Frakes directed episode before I'm told. There's just something about Frakes being behind the camera that
It feels
that I relate to.
cozy, it's homey. It's like this is Star Trek, you know?
Yeah, it's insider, right? Like,
Mhm.
and that's not to say anything about anybody else, but it's just different. And so it's one of those things where I didn't know. In the end of the episode, I see his name pop up, and I go, yeah, that checks out. But I was here for a lot of it. I loved the kind of the conversation between Crusher and Picard. I really thought, I was like, oh man, I think this is going to go on too long. But I found myself engaged because of what was happening. I mean, he was right. And then on the other side, the whole Riker and Picard conflict, I, I watched it a couple of times and realized that this was different to see these two men, these two leaders, rather, who are almost always right? And TNG, they were never really wrong. They might be kind of right, but they were never really wrong. And now here they are, wrong and having an argument that they would normally never have in that venue. It
Mhm.
was an interesting kind of departure from what we're used to. One of my favorite moments was Ensign LaForge. I think it's Ensign
Mhm.
LaForge saying Commander 7. Like, that got me. Like, I was just
Mhm.
like, yeah. And I've got to admit, like, all in all, I did not see the Changeling thing coming. Completely caught me by surprise. If I had a nit to pick, the Deanna Troi call seemed just off, awkward. Like, it just didn't hit. And I
Yeah.
couldn't quite put my finger on why.
I think for me, the biggest thing was the de-aging made everything, and it was like hard for me to figure. I was already like, why are we back in Guinan's LA bar that we had from last season that didn't exist and the different century? But anyway, we're using sets. I get it. So the placemaking was strange for me. And then the de-aging, I really wish they had just done a little bit more with some practical makeup and then maybe just used a little bit of a beauty filter. You know what I mean? I was like, I have seen better technology on TikTok, y'all. Like as far as like de-aging makeup stuff. And I felt like Riker looked a little bit more believable in his close-ups. It was just like too smooth on Picard.
I'm gonna say something that's hopefully won't get me in trouble, but
it will
probably. Here's the thing that why the de-aging felt off to me, but I really couldn't. It didn't even bother me, is because it felt so unbelievable. Because Picard's cadence is that of an older man,
Mm-hmm.
right? He doesn't like there. When he was younger, he spoke a certain way. Like,
Right.
we went back and we watched a lot of TNG.
It's
Now
like coming more from the diaphragm in earlier Picard.
Yes, and it feels a bit of a struggle. Like he's trying to get these words out that you could de-age him all you want to. The cadence, I was like, well, okay. It just that scene didn't really work for me. Like I was able to pull in what they were doing, and there was this conversation about loss and being a parent, and Riker sharing this, and it's a flashback. Like, I got the intent of the scene, so because I love Trek, I just went with it. But if you're asking me if I thought the scene worked, no.
Yeah, I mean, I saw what they're trying to do with this, like, the story of Thaddeus, and then like paralleling it to Picard having his moment in the turbo lift for his 17 seconds. But yeah, I don't know. And I appreciated getting to know that essentially Jack is the same age that Thaddeus would be today if he was still alive. And so I think that makes Riker's emotional connection to this episode a little bit more poignant to me.
I missed that.
So like I feel like they really were setting this up as like a heavy emotional episode from the top. And I wanted to dig it. I think to me the most interesting thing to talk about tonight would be Beverly and Picard hashing it out, and essentially I don't know if there's a way to designate if there is a true right or wrong in the situation, but there's definitely a lot to talk about in how Beverly approached the entirety of having Picard's secret child. And I wanted to get
going to end up in a team JeanLuc, Team Beverly conversation.
Hashtag. Because I'll give you my big takeaway at the top is I think this entire episode proved Beverly right.
How so? You can't just drop that and walk away from it.
That's a hot Myrriah.
It's a hot Myrriah. Hot Myrriah take.
I would drop the mic, but it's expensive, and I can't afford another one.
It's attached to a mic stand, but
I personally, I'm in full agreement with Myrriah. Don't misunderstand me. I love Picard, but like, she's like, hey, I got a kid, and like, just that line of like, like being JeanLuc Picard's kid paints a target on the back. I mean, I don't know how he can like argue that, right? and then like, and then if that's the case, then like, what's the rest? The rest is like, I'd give that up. No, you won't. Don't lie. It's Picard. This is your thing, Clyde, right? Like Picard is the hero, and he's when the galaxy calls, so like I don't think it was necessarily right for Crusher to like not tell him, but like she was right to do it. It had the best outcome. How about that?
So I'll say a couple of things about that. So I don't necessarily disagree, but I don't agree either.
Okay.
In the fact that
you're also the only dad on the show, so I feel like you probably have bigger opinions than
the idea that someone would have my child and not tell me about it until their life was in danger, I would feel robbed. And I think Picard's argument was, you keep telling me you know what I would do, but you never gave me the chance to actually make that decision, right? And so it's hard for me to say I agree that Beverly shouldn't have told him.
Right. Yeah.
Well, the other part of that, though, is I feel like we say, well, Beverly was proved right. The premise of that is if you believe Vadic is ultimately trying to get Picard. And I don't necessarily think that's the case, because she had Picard, right? Like when they in the pilot, in the premiere, when he put the transporters up, they they could have gotten Picard right then and there. They could have taken him, right? But what their choice was, they chose Jack. At that moment, she hasn't revealed what she wants from Picard. I don't know that she wants anything from Picard.
Yeah, it is hard to know without knowing Vadic's and the Changelings' like true motivation for all of this to fully say, what Jack's play is in all of this and what Picard's play is in all of this. But the reason I said earlier that I thought it in a sense proved Beverly right is the day Picard learns that it is his son. His son is on board this ship. He is going all in on attacking a giant warship on a science vessel with no weaponry. And it's like,
minimal weaponry.
Minimal weaponry.
That's right.
And so it's like that tension of seeing, and that's where I thought, I saw some folks online being like, is this like, it doesn't feel like Riker, blah, blah, blah. I think Riker in this scene is thinking about if his son was on the ship right now, and what he would be trying to do is get this entire ship to safety. And that's like, that is Riker's perspective and POV on how he is fathering this ship. And so when they're having this tete-a-tete on the bridge, where I think Riker thought, oh, finally Picard is going to let me use my instincts to captain this ship. He said, I can be your number one. And instead is demanding that I do things the Picard way. And I'm going to give in because it's just the easiest way. That's how they've always worked, right? is like, you give in. Picard is always right. You're going to do what Picard says. And I could see that freaking thing from a mile away. I was like, y'all don't know she's going to use that thing to then just shoot the thing right back at you. I'm sorry. But I was like, this is where your age is showing. No one else on this bridge is going to speak up. Where are some people here? Like, but yeah, but at the end of it, by the time, I watched the episode twice today. And by the end of it, both times I was like, I think Beverly was right in a way that I don't know if Picard, if given, and it's all hypotheticals, right? If he had been told he has a child, if he would have fully changed his ways, or if he would have just kept going when the galaxy called.
I think, go ahead, Paul.
So I would say this, like, you know, there are two real questions here. Like, what is right? Or in right being like what's fair to Picard,
right,
and what's owed to Picard. That's what. Versus what is the better outcome. Beverly picked what she thought would create the better outcome, even though that was in conflict of what would have been right for Picard. And she betrays her relationship with him because she's picking the better outcome for her son. I think that's what a parent does.
And I think that's what she was trying to say. I'm trying to protect my child.
And I think also Picard should know that. I think he would know that. I think like if he sat down and he goes like, yeah, this is probably the best.
I think it takes a lot. And I think part of this is there's this idea that when you become a parent, you got these parental instincts and these genes that just kick in, and that's not it. Right? Like, here's all Picard knows. Picard knows that he doesn't have a child, and all of a sudden he's been told you have a son, right? I'm sorry, but yes, that's going to touch you at a certain place where you're like, oh, this is my legacy. But as a parent, there's something from being there when your children are born and going through that miracle of life, which is actually, it's a miracle that both people are still alive, right? Going through that, the participating in the child rearing, these are all things that by its very nature create this bond between the individuals. Picard doesn't have that. And so this idea that he has this idea and that he would suddenly do something, I wonder if it was different if he was a part of Jack growing up. It's interesting. I'm a big F1 fan. Myrriah loves it when I make a sports reference on a
I like F1
show.
So we're good.
Okay. So I'm a big F1 fan, and I've been watching the F1 season starts this weekend, and I've been going back and trying to get through Netflix's Drive to Survive before it starts. And it's interesting because what this is a behind the scenes show, so you get to see all the stuff that you didn't really see during the race. And what I was struck with was there's a 4-time world champion in Sebastian Vettel, and in the middle of last season he announced his retirement. And in this retirement video, he just out of the blue he was on Instagram, he did an IG live and announced his retirement. Shocked everybody. But what's interesting is what he said. He said, I love the sport. I love everything the sport has given me. But at this time, I'm retiring because more than being a race car driver, I want to raise my kids. And what I was left with is, even those like Picard, who might constantly put their lives on the line and do something very dangerous, the act of being a parent and in that process sometimes changes you, where you go, this thing that I've been doing, I can't do anymore. So I wonder if he had become a parent and been a part of Jack's life, would we have seen Picard say, you know what, I can't rush in the danger. Hey, Soji, you're on your own. Like, I can't do all these things because of this other thing that means so much to me. But we'll never know because he never got that chance to experience that and grow in that manner. So that aside, if we're looking at Picard today and judging him on how he is today, never having gotten that chance to mature, then yeah, his life is a bit of a train wreck. And every time he turns around, somebody's trying to kill him or somebody who knows him. That's where I'm a little bit like, I don't know.
Are you really saying an 80-year-old man is not mature?
In this
Eating a
case,
positronic
absolutely.
robot. Positronic robot.
Have you listen?
Positronic robot. Yeah.
Listen, I love my dad, but if you knew my
That's
dad
true.
asking
I
me
was
the
like,
question,
it's like you hit an age and then you start going backwards. Like
yes,
Yeah, that was 7 for me.
yes. Love my dad. Mature is not a word I would use to describe it.
Like to your point, and we can let this go because I don't think there is a right answer aside from my answer. But but here's the second thing. Okay, let's say like here is Jean-Luc Picard, savior of the galaxy many times, right? Right, Clyde?
Yes, many times.
Are you going to deprive the galaxy that? If you're Beverly?
That's an interesting point. So you're saying that Beverly hid her son from Picard because she didn't want Picard to have to choose between being a father and being the hero of the universe.
I think that Beverly has two very valid things that she has to consider. One is like the safety of her son.
I'm 100% agree.
And basically the safety of the galaxy. You want someone on that wall. Who do you want on that wall? I'm just saying, like,
I can't argue with you. I'm not. I'll be honest. I can't. You're making these are two very good points.
It's a good point. And the other thing is, we fully, they haven't really fully revealed. Was there any outreach on any person's part? Right. Because it's like Beverly disappeared, but did Picard really try to reach out? Not to say that he.
And Beverly says, like, at 18, I told him, like, here's your dad, go see him. So like she wasn't, it wasn't that bad. Like I do understand Picard's hurt, especially after second season when like he comes to this revelation about his own, childhood and like all that trauma. He goes like, oh, I could have been the person that I would have liked to be, like I get that, but like, from Beverly's perspective, like if I were Beverly, that's what I would do. I'm just saying, like, I go like, oh, here's this kid. I have to protect this kid. I have to protect the universe. I want the universe to survive as well. Here's this thing. It just seems like logical to me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Chupi makes a really good point here. She says I don't feel like it hit her how many enemies he had until she was trying to tell him, and thing after thing kept happening. That like I completely agree. And as she was saying it, I was like, your son being a target because of who Jean-Luc is that's real. Like that is real.
The other thing is to think of is Beverly has lost so much, as she said, right? Like she lost her first husband. She lost Wesley. She's lost Picard numerous times to the galaxy in some way, shape, or form. And so I think as like a bit of a response is she's like, I now have someone that I can love for me. And like selfishly, I'm going to keep it in my little bubble as close as I can. Right.
Yeah. No, she lost that Space Ghost too.
We don't talk about Space Ghost, Paul.
Or Ash or Crystal Skull. We don't talk about a lot of things on this pod.
We should rename this pod the Things We Don't Talk About pod. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to get us not to talk about Peanut Hamper, but it seems like I'm
no, that's never gonna happen. But yeah, I think it's gonna be something we continue to revisit the entirety of the season, because obviously to me this is the most interesting point of conflict we've had so far, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is interesting. And to your point, Myrriah, I don't think we've been revealed all the elements of it. I still think there are threads to pull. Like it's interesting.
We still don't know why they want Jack.
Yeah, or what this motive is, and like the changelings are involved. That's significant. That's not just a grudge, right? Like that. This typically when the changelings are involved, you're talking about a much deeper master plot, involved, and so this is just not a grab.
Yeah. So to kind of move from that conversation to the other, like, kind of bigger one for tonight was our big reveal that the changelings are sort of at the core of our big bad of the season, which I'm excited we finally got them identified at this point. And I was going through stuff, and maybe y'all can remember. I mean, I remember the changelings from Deep Space Nine, and I can't remember anything specifically linking Picard to changelings. Is there anything that y'all can remember linking those two plot wise?
No, there's nothing aside from like in Star Trek. Like 9. Nope. Like basically, like there's the Dominion War, right? And,
right.
And basically in some of the last Star Trek movies, like a 9 and 10, like, you know, have reference to the Dominion War,
right? But no, like changeling Picard interactions,
no.
right? Okay, that's what I thought.
I mean, maybe this is all about Wharf. Maybe they don't like his relationship with Odo, and really this is a let's get to Jack because Picard will show up, and eventually Picard will reach out to Wharf, and we can get Wharf. I mean, it
seems like a long chain to get there.
It seems like yeah. It started to fall apart as I was saying it. Yep.
Yeah, but I loved Wharf in this episode so much.
And Wharf is great. Like Wharf has been. He's never been like the top tier Star Trek character for me, even though I liked him more in Deep Space Nine. Just hang on, Clyde. I'm just saying, like,
don't make me find my Wharf action figure around here. Like, I got one
because Wharf always, like, you know, because he was always of the mindset of like, I have to kill someone, honor, and like in this episode, he goes like, as of late, I've realized that you have to
myself.
I have to access calm as well as fire. I am, as the humans say, working on myself. I go like, that's cool. Better late than never. but he, you know, I think I like this evolution of him.
I'm a big War fan, but Michael Dorne is just like his portrayal. You know, it's interesting because we have a lot of actors who are going back and portraying characters that they portrayed, you know, 30 or in some cases more like 20 years ago. Michael Dorne slipping back into the Wharf character feels seamless to me, and just look in the Black community to see, and there's a certain amount of wisdom and honor and admiration that comes from looking at an elder statesman. And so when I see Michael Dorne on the screen, there's a certain amount of respect. And I'm like, Michael Dorne, if you're listening to this podcast, let me know. I would love to buy you a drink someday. Like, it's just
chamomile tea it up.
Chamomile tea.
No,
like it just
juice.
Was
prune juice, baby.
Whatever it is, drinks on me, because there was something special about seeing that character again. Right. I imagine I will have a very similar reaction when I see my favorite character of all time,
Hamper.
Geordi LaForge. Right. Geordi LaForge. Like, I mean, my LeVar Burton fandom goes back to forever. So I'm excited about all of this.
Was he that guy in like that episode of Community? Just kidding, Clyde. Of course I know.
I was going to say it was in this week's Ready Room. There's some fun kind of behind the scenes stuff about like choreographing fight scenes, and like Michelle Hurd, you know, kind of similar emotion wise to you, Clyde, about like the importance of like seeing Michael Dorne on her screen as she was growing up, and now getting to work with him and have this like on screen both partnership, but then like a friendship with him. And all of their behind the scenes footage just looked like the most fun people were having on set, because it's just like cool fight choreography and like the seedy underbelly town, and then like them on the La Sirena together. And Michael Dorne talked a lot about how when the writers approached him, you know, they were like, well, where do you think Wharf is now?
Oh, wow. That's great.
And he's like, I think of him as more of like a samurai type, you know, he's like kind of found this like two-sidedness to himself. And I was like, oh, this is going to be such a good season.
See, I'm also a big fan of samurai culture, so that clicks for me. But I wonder, see, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking like, okay, why am I feeling this way? Because not for nothing, I felt a certain similar way when Gates McFadden was on screen. And I think it's because we've seen Picard pop up throughout. Like, and not just in this and other shows. I don't feel like I have missed Patrick Stewart at all because he's never really left. Right? I mean, he was Professor X. Jonathan Frakes has also felt like he's been around, right? Even if it hasn't always been on screen, he has been behind the screen and then done interviews about his participation behind the screen. And even LeVar Burton is still out and about and has a presence in advocacy. There's a lot here, but Michael Dorne feels like I have not seen him for a very long time, and it felt significant seeing him on screen. It really did.
Yeah, and someone broke down. So I love that we get the whole reintroduction with Son of Moog, House of Martok, Son of
Killer
Paul,
Duras.
Paul, that was the intro I was trying to give you. I was like, you could do the whole thing. I literally wrote it down and had this like,
love it, Clyde.
I was like, I am Clyde. My name, like when you said, hi, I'm Myrriah, and with me, I was gonna go, and I am Clyde, son of Clyde, house of. I had this whole thing that I was gonna do.
Love it.
So,
I almost did that one. I was gonna be like, I am Myrriah, daughter of Walter, house of Noland. Like,
yes.
So
I was gonna say bane of Myrriah's existence. Like I had the whole thing down. Like,
but a big thing a lot of folks noted was that he said house of Rozhenko, which Rochenko. Sorry, I'm like reading it off the page. Rochenko, which is his adoptive human father, which a lot of people really liked.
Yeah, I nerded out in that whole. I'll be honest. I'll confess. I rewound it 3 times. Like, and listened to it 3 times.
I love it. and not to be like superficial, but Wharf just looks cool with his white hair. And, he's rocking it.
That long pony.
Yeah,
long pony.
It's casual,
Yeah, I'm trying to be him when I grow up for real.
Yeah.
And the makeup I thought looked great. They talked a lot in the Ready Room too about how, like, we've seen many versions of Klingons throughout Star Trek. There's a lot of different kinds of Klingons, and they're like, but we cannot change Wharf. But they're like, luckily we can and have better makeup technology, so it makes his life a lot easier to be able to fully express in the makeup. And I thought that was really cool. The other thing, this week's Ready Room is full of lots of production stuff. So if you all want to check it out, I thought it was great. They rehired the original graphic designer from TNG to come on and work on all of the screens for the Titan. I was like, they look incredible. And they interviewed him and he was just like, it was so fun getting to work with the technology we have today so that they're like fully interactive screens. But I was like, anyway, it was a production fun times.
It's funny you mentioned that because like this episode, I watched all the end trailers, and because it's all graphics, right? Like of the Titans, like view monitors, and it shows a bunch of stuff. And I wonder if they're teasers, like they show the museum, like that Jody works on that he sent the what you call it, the painting of the Enterprise to. So I wonder if they're going to go to the museum, like. It has all this stuff at the end of at the end credits, like and it's all very interesting. I'm just curious, like how many spoilers they kind of hid in there.
Yeah, I have heard that if you go through all of them, you can find quite a few, but I like haven't been wanting to look too close. I see. I don't want to get spoiled. But I'm sure there's some fun stuff in there. Oh, another fun fact is the actor who plays the changeling who's getting questioned by Rafi and Wharf is the same actor. It's Thomas Dekker, who played Jean-Luc Picard's imaginary son, Thomas Picard.
In Generations?
It's apparently and then he also in Voyager, while still a child, he played a hologram named Henry Burleigh, who existed in Janeway's Hollow novel. And so he has now appeared as a human, but not a human 3 times in Trek.
Well, there you go. Look at that. Just keeping it in the family.
Yes. So Odo is definitely Worf's source, right? His trusted source.
I
Trusted friend.
assume so. Like that's the only changeling we have by name, and the only changeling that Odo knows.
But I think what's interesting is, if memory serves, when Worf first showed up on DS9, Odo wasn't a fan.
Not
Mhm.
yeah, like like because like Worf was trying to do his job.
And so I thought it was interesting that, now we're looking in that relationship that started so rocky. He speaks to him with such reverence and honor. And also for those of us, the actor whose name I'm gonna mess up, Renee Ogerberg or
Odo.
Yes, who passed away.
Yeah.
It was a really a great touchstone and call out to him. So I like that. I really did like that.
I wanted to another thing that I found interesting in this episode that it didn't really hit me until the second watch was when Jack is kind of like half passed out on the ground once they find out there is a changeling on board the Titan as well who's been sabotaging things. He has this interesting like vision of Seven with like a red tree growing behind her and it's like follow the roots and then there's a door.
Is that what you said? Follow the roots?
Follow the branches. Follow the. It's like something like that. Follow the branches.
I
follow
thought
the
that, like connect the branches. That's what.
Connect the branches. Oh, that might be it. Connect the branches, and then there's
team
a door.
Up.
So the whole team has to get back together to save the galaxy. Is that the point of that vision?
Like like for me, like I saw that.
Sign me up.
like I saw that, and I go, oh, because we did all this changeling stuff, I go like, this is wild conspiracy theory.
Okay, I'm ready. Like, Paul theory, get ready, y'all.
Is Jack Crusher a changeling?
How?
I don't know, Clyde.
He's not. But have we seen? Doesn't he have to become liquid form? Or is he maybe the first changeling that never has to become liquid form?
The only
reason he's a daywalker.
The reason, because like I'm thinking like, why do they need Jack? Why would they want Jack? And so like the only thing I could think of is there's something special about him.
This feels very The Last of Us, Mandalorian. We don't have a Pedro Pascal in this show, so I don't know.
That's my hot. And then you see like like when you see the vines or the red behind, I think of the Great Link. So like for the changeling. So like and like the changelings have this kind of like, there was an episode in Deep Space Nine where they have like this connective thing where like. Anyway, like
their life pool or whatever it is, yeah.
They connect with each other. So like I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying that like that's my super hot take.
All right. Okay. So James says not a changeling, wouldn't have been affected by the gas, and Marge says Pod something Riker is a changeling.
Ooh, that would be crazy.
That would be nuts.
I don't think. I feel like they have been together for too many hours for him to be a changeling.
Fair.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
Oh,
also, I think it's like a lot of people didn't like Daddy and Daddy arguing on the bridge, so I saw some chatter about that on Twitter too.
Also, like a shout out to my new hero Shaw, who like got and said, hey.
How are they finding us?
Exactly. Yes. You know what he's doing? He's doing his job.
Even while internally bleeding.
So right. I will admit, like I took a very critical look at this during this episode to say I'm going to evaluate Shaw's movement and based on this episode, do I think he's a clown? And I will admit he didn't do anything that jumped out at me that would make me not like him based on this episode, with the exception of the you did this, you was a little unnecessary.
But I think when you're like, I think I've just killed an entire crew that's not mine, like to
Yeah.
save your kid, you know, like,
Yeah.
and now we're all done.
No, I mean, but by and large, I didn't find any real fault with Shaw this episode. I can admit that.
I mean, the other thing is, like, we know they're not going to fall into the gravitational well, or if they do, they're going to pop out the other side somewhere interesting. You know what I mean? I think the Vedic wants them alive, and so I think she's just going to use her fancy portal to bring them back out and start all over again.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a line of sight thing.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Potentially. So the other thing was they keep alluding to something else besides this portal technology has been stolen from Daystrom, and it's Peanut Hamper, right?
Obviously, it's Peanut Hamper.
I will say, so the timeline of things, that drink with Picard, the de-aging drink, happens 2 years after Riker saved the Cerritos. And so I was like, either this portal's going to open up at the gravitational well, or I would love if the Cerritos with Captain Mariner come swooping in for the save.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Or it's probably going to be the portal.
It's not Nebula.
And all jokes aside, it's not Peanut Hamper, but they've stolen lore, right? Like they stole lore from the Daystrom Institute. That's what it is.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense because, like,
that does
you know,
make
like,
sense.
Because they, you know, like lore is coming, and I feel that, like,
this
that's
is
where
this is the best from Ilana. Peanut Hamper is Vedic's boss.
Ilana, you win tonight's podcast. Congratulations.
Best
Ilana wins the internet.
But like it would, like, that's where they would store lore, right? Like lore was dismantled and put, you know, into storage. They would store them at Daystrom. So I that makes absolute sense.
For our listeners, Ilana said that Peanut Hamper is Vodic's boss. So with that, Ilana wins the internet for the night. Listen, I will tell you this, as much as I'm not a Peanut Hamper fan, and I want to say that that's not
James says Peanut Hamper is Vedic's ship.
Oh, that's right.
That's funny. Listen, and this is I'm not trying to throw shade at Heather Donahue or anything, but if they did weave Peanut Hamper into the final season of Picard, I would probably have a new respect for Peanut Hamper, and maybe I would relent a little bit. But
one thing that I just remembered. Do you think when, you know, when we see the Changeling, the Wharf Changeling turn, you know, it looks really like a lot different than it did in Deep Space Nine. Do you think that means anything? Because
yeah,
like
it means VFX technology's gotten better.
but like
it doesn't look like Animorphs anymore.
Well, no, but like, I mean, like, it looks like it goes from like, here's a human to pus, as opposed to a human to like this like liquid energy thing that can become like a knife or a table. Like, you know, it looks really organic in a way that I go like, that's not a really, that I hope that's a choice that
maybe because they're eviler changelings.
Maybe like, you know, it's just one of those things where it just looked really, it was striking to me where I go like, oh, this is kind of gross.
Yeah.
I
wonder if they, go ahead, Clyde.
I was just thinking, to me, what I took away, because I noticed that too, Paul, I was thinking this is a different changeling than we were used to, and maybe there's been an evolution. I mean, it's been a while.
Sure.
Maybe there's been an evolution. Maybe their capabilities are different. I mean, they are very far away from the Great Link, right? Like they're very, very far away, and so maybe this is something. Maybe this is their scouts, their spies, and so they're, you know, they look different.
Did the one on the ship also have a weird voice change, or just the face thing happening?
It's like, I think when Jack punched him, like, you know, his face just phased. Like,
okay.
I look back now, and like that specific ensign or whatever he was
Mhm.
has been like seated throughout the whole
evil glaring,
Yeah, like it was in episode 1, he was and like at the end, at like I think last episode, like he was like looking out the back of the ship, and like then he just like interrupted the woman talking.
As JC says, Ensign Sus.
Oh, I like that. Ensign Sus. So yeah.
Yeah. He's my spouse pointed out that he apparently was a character in the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Oh,
that actor. So I was like,
Ensign Family.
Ensign Family, yeah. Ensign Furious hanging out. I'm trying to think. There was so much this episode. What did you think of our big chase scene with Rafaela and Wharf? I loved beheadings are on Wednesdays. It felt like his Mean Girls line, like on Wednesdays we wear pink.
He's loosened up in his old age. Loosened up.
He's definitely funnier.
Yeah, I'm enjoying I have jokes, Wharf.
Yeah, he's like dad jokes, Wharf.
Yeah, but I'm into it.
Yeah.
It feels correct for that character to be dad jokes.
Because here's the thing, like about 20 plus years have passed, whatever, since and he feels like an evolution, like as opposed to like you kind of feel bad if he just stayed the same Wharf. Like 20 years has gone by and you're still the same guy, dude. You suck.
But I think that's the interesting part, is because I think if we look at someone like Picard, do you feel like he has evolved? Do you feel like we're looking at an evolution of Picard?
I feel like he's devolved.
I was just gonna ask. I was like, it feels like everyone else has grown up and Picard is still on the Enterprise.
Well, see, I would say Picard has gone worse and just gone to like old man, kind of thing. And he's not nearly like because Picard was older, right? He was at his prime. He was the captain, so he's leading everyone as far as their thing. So everyone else is still like viable. He's positronically decrepit. Get it?
So,
positively.
Yes. Nice. I got a question for you guys. Okay, so there's some characters that we are expecting to see because they told us, right? So we're expecting to see Geordi. We're expecting to see Lore. We're expecting to see Moriarty. There's been some questions. We've kind of sort of seen Deanna. Who knows if we'll get more of her?
I think we will. We've seen some screenshots in the trailer. So
yeah, who else are you hoping to see? Right, like anyone from the franchise. Are there people that you're hoping that that are going to show up?
Thank you.
Hamper.
Thank you.
I mean, I would love any tie-ins with our other shows. I think that would be a really firm way to finally and firmly pass the baton, if that makes any sense. I don't know how they do it. Book comes in, saves the day. Who knows?
You know who I would like to see? I got one.
Mariner.
Mariner, all is good. I'd like to see Spock.
We do have a lot of time traveling Spock happening.
No, it doesn't need to be time traveling Spock. Spock's still alive.
That's true.
He was on Romulus, and plus 20 years, he's still, he's still viable. So you get who's playing Spock now? Ian Peck. Yeah, aged up as Spock. That'd be cool.
Interesting idea.
That would be interesting. I mean, Janeway for sure would be great. Is hanging out.
We've got in the chat. We've got a couple people saying Kira. Bashir. I see Harry, Kim, Cisco, and
Ash. Thank
dead
you.
To me, Jay. Dead to me, Jay. No, I there's a bunch. I kind of want to see Miles O'Brien.
Miles O'Brien.
Robert Picardo's always down for a cameo, so yeah. I think it'd be interesting. I mean, especially because I feel like we're getting a lot of TNG, but 7 is here, and so I kind of wouldn't mind seeing some Voyager crew,
some Tom Paris.
No,
why does everybody hate on Tom Paris?
I don't know. I mean, he was what he was.
I'll say it because like He's so basic. He's so basic. Tell me something about Tom Paris that you go like, oh,
Torres would be great.
Torres would be great.
I thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, what do you know about Tom Paris that makes him like interesting? Give me a character trait.
I mean,
he's got gray hair.
He's a reformed, prisoner.
My point exactly. Like, great hair, reformed prisoner. Really?
Hell of a pilot.
Wow. You're describing his skills and his hair as opposed to his personality.
He loved B'Elanna.
He did.
He loved
and a lot of other people. But
wait. Describe Janeway. Like, what would Janeway be? Give adjectives of Janeway. Her hair. No, that doesn't work.
It's a false dichotomy, Paul. You can't compare those two characters.
Not dichotomies. I'm just saying, like, like with Janeway, she's strong, she's decisive. Like she's a gambler, she's a risk taker. Paris is just like he's milquetoast.
Okay, so there are a couple other things. So Chupi says, I see where was it? And at least a mention to Alexander. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
See some names in here I haven't seen before. Ro Laren and Shelby. I don't remember who Shelby is at the moment, but Ro.
Oh, Shelby is the person who tried to get Riker's job when.
Oh yeah. Now you can keep Shelby. Ro, I'm for. Marge, I thought we were friends, and then you bring in Porthos. Like, what's up, Marge?
Well, she has faith that the dog's still alive. It's in her heart. She has faith of the heart.
Faith of the heart. Anything else y'all want to talk about in this episode?
No, this is my buffet episode, so it's not. I feel like I wanted all these things. It just didn't come together for me. So I will.
I got one more for you. What did you think of Vadic in this episode? We were really excited about Vadic in the last episode. Continuation, but
I feel like we didn't get a lot. We just got a few flashes to the interior of the ship this episode, so it was really just like the continuation of the chase. I think Amanda Plummer is an incredible addition to the Star Trek franchise, and I hope we get some scenes with her and any of our core crew together in a room and not just through view screens.
Like, imagine Picard, Vadic, and
Seven.
Jack Crusher just smoking it up together.
Also wouldn't be mad at that. But I'm ready for some hand-to-hand combat with some Seven and Vadic's little minions, I'm here for it.
I'd agree with your point earlier, Myrriah. Another nit to pick for this is it did feel like episode of Star Trek 24 where it was in real time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm ready for a little let's get at least to the next day,
I don't know. Yeah. They're falling into the gravity well. I think you're going to be stuck with another 24 episode.
I got to admit that we don't have a whole lot of episodes and I'm kind of over this nebula. Can we be away from the nebula, do some
or whatever it is.
I don't know.
A mycelial network nebula, and that's Discovery comes swooping in and saves the day.
That's it. If they came out with the mycelial network tie-in, I would go nuts. I'd probably lose it.
It'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it for this week. Anything else? All grievances have been aired.
I'm just a big fan of Shaw and Ensign Sus.
Ensign Sus and Shaw ready for duty. Thank you all so much for tuning in this week. We will be back next week to talk more about Picard with another live streaming episode. You can subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts, and you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. Visit StarTrekPod.co to find links to all of those places and our Patreon. Clyde, how can people find us on Twitters?
Just check us out at Star Trek Pod, where you can follow us on Twitter. Shout out to Karen, who runs our Twitter. Thank you, Karen.
We appreciate it. Thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you next time. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.
Prosper, everyone. Bye.